everybody. Welcome back to the show. We're coming off of what could arguably be said is the best race in Cup Series history. Possibly, if not, it's in the top two. The only one that could possibly beat it would be 03 at Darlington. But obviously, follow the podcast. I was real happy last night when that went on. But by the way, a clean sweep for number 5 for those of you following the GFR journey. But
this guy.
it was a good week for us, and I know Ford. Brett was crushed last night.
Let's just get into it. All right, let's just get into it. Okay, listen, we've been talking for 25 minutes before the podcast even started, guys. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see the hats that we have on, so you can see who we were supporting. I just want to go ahead and start off the rip. Hot take. I know this is going to be a hot take. Beezy, or Jonathon, whatever you want to call him by his gamer tag or his real name. If I'm Chris Buescher last night, actually, you know what? For those, in case you missed it, in case you don't get on social media or you didn't get to watch the race, greatest race all time last night, by the way. That's my first hot take. It's the greatest NASCAR race in the history of the sport. Not just because of the finish, but because of the flag racing we had. It's unreal. I mean, it's unreal. The lead changes we had, the clean racing we had. I saw somebody say, can we just put Kansas on the schedule 36 times a year? I'm like, yes, please, because that was amazing, dude.
I saw one schedule. It had Kansas 32 times, one Charlotte, Daytona, and Talladega.
Hey, that'll work. That'll work, right? That'll work. That was just amazing racing. For the exception of those 25 laps from, what was it, like lap 90? No, it was like lap 80 to lap 55, where they just could not keep the cars going straight. And we had like 4 or 5 cautions in the span of like 25 laps. But other than that, I mean, the racing was absolutely amazing. And then, you know, they were worried about fuel strategy coming to the end. They end up making it, right? Obviously, well, we don't know if they'd have made it or not because Kyle Busch spins with 5 to go. And it was going to be a great battle between Denny, MTJ, and Brad K. Brad was coming. And he actually put on Twitter today, he thinks that if it would have stayed green, he would have finished second or better, is what he put on X or Twitter or whatever. I saw that this morning. Anyway, we have the yellow come out. All the leaders take 2 tires, and then they come out. And yeah, I mean, that was a battle. Larson made a great move off of 2 to even stay in contention and move up to second. And my dad actually texted me before the restart and was like, watch out for that 5 car. And he wanted me to make sure I said that on the pod today. He called a shot. And then Chris was able to get loose down the backstretch. You know, they come and take the white. He's still loose in the one. I mean, he's out front in the 1. And then Larson does Larson things. I mean, that was, in my opinion, top 3 greatest move in the history of the sport. He drafts all the way down the backstretch. Chris can't do anything differently, I think, because he takes the middle lane enough, but blocks the high lane. Well, blocked the high lane for the exception of one guy, that guy being Kyle Larson. I don't think anybody else in the field is fitting their race car in between the 17 and the wall right there. He does. Comes off the corner. They door slam a little bit, which we'll share our opinions on. I have very strong opinions about that here shortly. Not because of what happened, because of the fans' response to that. And then they come down the front stretch, and we all thought Chris Buescher won because that's what the official scoring loop said, which is about 20 yards before the start-finish line, which Chris clearly led there. Did not led where it mattered, though, which was at the start-finish line, and Larson got him by 0.001 thousandths of a second. Here's my second hot take. Not only do I think it's the greatest race in the history of the sport, I think Chris Buescher should adopt it. And here's why. Not because as a NASCAR fan, not even as an RFK fan. Again, I know you're watching the podcast and think, well, you're just saying that because you're pulling for Chris because you like RFK. No, I'm saying that for 2 reasons. I'm saying this as a driver in a race car. I know I need a win, and I know my manufacturer needs a win. I also know that this puts me in the playoffs. I also know who's driving that 5 car and that he's going to get lots of them this year, and he's not going to be mad at me if I do this because Kyle's done some stuff similar to that over the years. Not saying you dump a guy. I'm just saying you squeeze him into the fence a little bit more to slow him down just enough to get him down the front stretch. Now, we all thought he did that, but Kyle Larson pulled out his Houdini act. So that's what I'm saying. And, again, objectively as a race fan, I want to clarify here. I'm glad he didn't do it because we got to see the greatest finish in the history of the sport. But as a Chris Buescher, I don't even say as Chris Buescher fan. If I'm Chris Buescher in that race car, I'm squeezing him until I hear him in the fence.
Well, I'm glad he didn't, obviously. But
Obviously.
also, one thing, too, and, me and you was talking about this a while ago, and it really just now came to my mind. All the leaders except for one took 2 tires. Truex took 4 and went all the way back to 10th.
That's right.
And was charging him and Elliott. If Buescher did go, because if he put Larson in the wall, it's going to slow him down some, too.
Correct.
Neither one of them may have won.
That's a good point.
Now that I think about it, and I hadn't even thought about that till just now.
I thought about that yesterday, and when I told you that last night, because I think I told you that initially we were racing last night, and then I thought about it more today, and I think you got to have a checkers or records mindset at that point. Again, I'm not saying that's a right or wrong mindset to have. I think I'll even go as far as to say it's probably the wrong mindset to have. The correct mindset obviously played out, and I was so happy we got to see that finish. I'm just saying, to make that move is to put you in the playoffs. And I think that we always criticize the drivers for being too aggressive now, but I really think it is what the sport has made under this format. And I think that's why I would have made that move. Again, the correct move, the etiquette, the excellence from both of those guys. Kyle just being literally 1,000th better. I think that's what we got to see play out, and I'm so happy we did. Again, I'm just saying from a perspective of a big overhead things, because let's face it, man, Ford has not shown the speed all year like Chris Buescher showed yesterday. I mean, Chris was a car to beat yesterday. There was the 3 best cars in the field were the 5, the 11, and the 17, consistently throughout the day. And when you have one of the 3 cars to beat, and you're going against the 2 you're going against, the 5 and 11 are going to be up there every week. No offense. I mean, Ford has not had a guy up there in a mile and a half in a while, and Chris was that guy yesterday. So that's why I'm saying all of what I'm saying. And again, I hope our viewers don't think that I'm for wrecking people for wins. I'm just saying that's the monster that NASCAR's created. But like I said, and I'll continue to say it, I am very happy that the finish played out the way that it did, because it was awesome for the sport.
Oh, no doubt it was awesome. How often does NASCAR make Sports Center?
Probably 5 times every year, considering they race 36 Cup races a year. That's not very much.
Yeah, I mean, that was on Sports Center this morning. That was on local news affiliates. I mean, it got a lot of coverage. It was really big for the sport. And me and you saw this last night. I don't care which one of them won. If Chris Buescher would have failed tech last night, we'll never know about it.
Nope.
Because NASCAR don't want to. Because all of a sudden that photo finish ain't a photo finish. If Kyle Larson failed tech, we ain't never going to find out about it. My thing about it, though, is, you said, yeah, right, when I said this last night when we was messaging. I legit did feel bad for Chris, because he was literally celebrating. I don't feel bad that he lost. I just feel bad that for a good 30 seconds that him and the team thought they'd won, and then they find out they didn't. I can't imagine how crushing that must be for him, that whole team. I know it's bad enough. It's one thing to lose, but to think you won and then they tell you, nah. And Larson, it was funny with him. Have you listened to his radio today?
Yeah, I saw somebody posted about it. Like, he was pumped for the finish.
Yeah. And I was like, what the arm? At first, he was like, did we get him? And then apparently the spotter found out, went crazy. But I watched the clip from the press conference that he did after the race. He's on the back straightaway, and all of a sudden they say he won the race. And he's like, goes to celebrate, and he's all jacked up, and he comes around the corner. And then all of a sudden he thinks they done changed it again, because Buescher's still sitting on the front straightaway, and he quit celebrating. Larson does, because he thinks. And then about that time, he said Buescher turns around and goes the other way. He said, well, I guess they just now told him. It was crazy. And one thing I loved about it as a Larson fan, I haven't seen the way he was pumped up, throwing his fist out of the car. I mean, you don't see that out of him when he wins at all. That rate, he was pumped up last night about that. And part of it may have been is because, he's had a lot of races with Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and stuff real close to the line battles like that. And most of the time, he hasn't came out on top of them types of races, and maybe that led to it. But you don't see him that excited when he wins most of the time. I mean, he's excited like they all are, but you don't see him just pumped like that.
I just, I think it. Like I said, I just want to reiterate that was just fantastic for the weekend for NASCAR because for three reasons. The biggest being that you started in a rain delay, so you probably lost some viewers. The second biggest being you were rivaling Formula One in your own country because they ran in Miami this past weekend. And then the Kentucky Derby's going on. The Kentucky Derby had a photo finish this weekend as well. And to be out of those three, the biggest news story, we talk about progress for the sport all the time. You just talked about it just moments ago about where it was all over today. I think that kind of progress is great for the sport, and we say it all the time. I'm not going to get on the soapbox, Jonathan Booth, but we always talk about how NASCAR tries to make stuff happen. It is going to happen organically. It happened last night. Stop trying to make the fake playoffs and the fake Final Four and all this other fake stuff. It happens organically. That stuff's going to continue to happen like it did last night. That's all I just want to put that out there in the world.
And one thing before we move on, I want to talk about, it wasn't just the finish. It was the entire race from green flag to checkered flag. Larson raced so hard in that first stage with Chastain and Hamlin. He finally passed Chastain and then wore his tires out. And Hamlin caught it and they raced. Larson had to been side by side for the lead for 50 laps in that first stage. I mean, it wouldn't surprise. That may be a little high, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was a number or higher. I mean, it was just crazy all night long. You could pass because there's more lanes. It was just incredible from start to finish. And it's been that way at Kansas since they brought the next gen. And really, Kansas was trending that way before the old car went away. But it's like we've been saying, we used to hate 1.5, so we got rid of all of them. And now we want them all to come back. I even thought about old Kentucky today.
Dude, Kentucky and Chicagoland in this package, God bless them. That would be wonderful.
And quit racing at the parking lot of Charlotte in the fall.
You're right.
I was hoping that they
said last night about him, like, please bring back more mile and a half. I think that was the best thing of it all. He gets immediately out of the car. That's where his mind's at. I'm like, yes, Kyle, yes.
Well, he's always loved the mile and a half because that's where he can rip the top. You see, and this is what, going all the way back, I never understood the hate for mile and a half. I always enjoyed them. But, I mean, there was some time in like 15 to 18 where they wasn't as good.
But that was where you follow the leader for a little bit there, especially when you go to, especially when it was like those 600s, those Martin Truex 600s or those few mileage 600s where you just played follow the leader and nothing was exciting for 600 miles. Now it's exciting for 600 miles and yesterday 400 and, you know.
That was when NASCAR decided to cut the horsepower way down and put a spoiler this big on it every track. And it just ruined their – because if you go back and watch 2014, that was by far the best year in the Gen 6 era.
Yep.
Those races were incredible. And then they decided to just mess with the car. And it went downhill, and it stayed downhill on the mountain. But before that, I grew up loving the mountain pass because you get to see the 2 and 3 wide. Before Larson, it was Casey Kane ripping the top. I love seeing them guys rip the top because it's just, you're sitting there just waiting for them to mess up. And it's just pure amazement. So when watching them do it, and then Larson took it to another step from Kane and some of them guys. But
NASCAR really hurt themselves after 2014. They lost the ESPN deal, and then they cut the horsepower down. And now I feel like we've went through the really bad times of the sport. And I feel like if NASCAR can, and again, we've said this on this podcast before, but if NASCAR can make it through this last decade and now they're starting to trend up again, NASCAR will have another boom like they did in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think that's inevitable at this point, especially with racing like we had yesterday, because you can have these sideshows, you can have all these concerts, you can have all this other stuff that NASCAR likes to put on. You can have the Chicago street race, you can have whatever else. But just like anything, nothing is going to bring fans like the racing that they had yesterday. That attracts fans. That attracts old fans that has left the sport. That attracts new fans. That attracts the casual fan that only watches maybe the 500 every year. And that definitely attracts people like us who are diehards. That's going to attract every single type of fan, even if they have just the smallest inkling to watch a race. That is what makes you want to watch. It's not, all this other stuff that they want to, it's not all this other stuff that has really nothing to do with racing. It is the organic stuff that happens like what happened last night.
Well, the concerts and stuff like that, and I got a one to pick with WWT. Listening, I was driving down the road today at work. Ad comes on. It ain't all about the cars; it's about the party. You're doing it wrong if you're talking to her. That was literally on the advertisement for WWT coming up, and I think it's the week after 600, isn't it?
Yes, the first race in June. Yep.
And that's not what you need the sport to come off as, which we all know WWT is in that type of package where the tracks where the car doesn't do the greatest on. But one thing I will say, I know you saw it because I sent it to you. The right front tire off of Larson's car before he wasn't the only one. What are we tire wear? He had to drive it. You live on the edge, you gotta learn how to take care of the car. But Cliff Daniels is a genius as a crew chief. We all know that. But the way them cautions worked out, he wound up being on the wrong end of the strategy. And I told you that I thought it's because he had done it early in the race, racing hard for 30 or 40 laps, and he'd fall off because he had to push so hard from 13th to get up to third. By then, he done cooked his stuff. But that's what makes races good. It's one of the biggest things that makes a race good. And we talked about it at Bristol with the tire wear. I mean, it's just amazing. And, man, I got to give every one of them drivers yesterday, except for the couple that decided just to lose their minds in the final stage. But for the most part, them drivers show why they're the best in the world yesterday, from green flag to checkered flag.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about our results. Obviously, we've talked about the top two, as close as you're ever going to have to a tie ever in any kind of race, Larson and Buescher. And let's not forget, I love the stat that I know Mike Joyce slipping a little bit, a lot of people would say, but I love the stat that he shared last night. It was the closest Kansas finish ever if you just took Larson and Truex, who finished P4, which I thought was a pretty interesting stat. Chase Elliott, obviously P3. Denny rounded out the top five. Denny, another guy that I thought, had one of those top three cars and was going to finish outside of the top 10. Strategy ended up falling in his lap, just like the same thing for Chris. They both had to overcome some stuff. Denny had some trouble getting out of his box early on in the race, overcame that. Chris obviously had too many men over the wall after stage two, overcame that with obviously some cautions, and all of those cautions that kept coming out there in stage three. C. Bale qualified on the pole, really fell off after stage two, but ended up getting a P6 finish. Busch 8, McDowell 10th. I really want to focus on the two guys, though, in P7 and P9, Alex Bowman and Noah Gragson. Their third straight top 10 finish for both of those guys. This is the first streak for Bowman since the start of last year, and the first ever for Noah in his Cup Series career.
One more top 10 and Noah passes what Almirola did all of last year.
Say that again?
One more top 10 and Noah passes Almirola for what he did all of last year.
I just want you to say that one more time. Just one more time, because we just completed what race of the year? What race was it? Race number, I think it was number 12. Is that it?
12, yeah.
Yep. So say that one more time. Race 12, and he's got one more top 10 to do what?
To pass what Almirola did all of last season.
Well. Anyway, Brad finished 11th. Blaney 12th. Brad, he had the best long-run car, I think. Let's talk about Brad for a second. I think he had the best long-run car of anybody in the field, just able to manage his stuff. And that was very unfortunate that caution came out. Robbed him of the top five, potentially a chance to get to the win. I know we touched on him a little bit earlier, but, I mean, just MRFK boys, they had Kansas figured out last night.
Yeah, Brad's just a veteran, too, because you look at the last run of that race, the first three-quarters of the race, they all split the wherever they needed to get to in half. So they didn't run near a fuel run. On that last run where they was running a fuel run, you took somebody that used to run in the late 2000s, early part of the 2010s. My mind went blank. I'm sorry.
You're good. We're getting so old now that is now finally a decade that has passed. So I'm with you.
Elvis distracted me. It didn't help. But anyway, he came from that horsepower and the tires wearing out. So last night, I'm sure he was right in his wheelhouse last night in that long run on top of the car being pretty good. But he probably had done a better job of any of them besides maybe Truex of saving the tires. I don't know which one of them was faster at the end. It might have been Brad, but Truex was moving too.
They said Brad was the fastest car on the track there for that. I think it was the last 15 laps of that run, but he really wasn't making up a whole lot on Martin. So I don't think he would have called MTJ, but he definitely would have passed Chris and would have passed Denny. But I think the 19 would have won the race, which is unfortunately for Martin the second time this year. A caution is more than likely cost him a late race caution is more than likely cost him a win this year. Some more notables: Todd Gilliland in 14th. Josh Berry qualified around 15th. Two top 15s for some Ford guys who seem like they've showed some speed at times this year. Justin Haley got up there and competed for a little bit, finished in 18th. Bubba was involved in a couple of different accidents, recovered from both, and finished 17th. Ross, man, Ross was fast, and he just got caught up in some junk there in stage 3. Ended up at 19th.
Ross, I think he was tight, which when he lost a little bit of track position was real bad. He never was the same once he – a lot of Hamlin, Larson, Truex, Brad, Busher were able to pass. Once he lost his track, I think he was just too tight. You know, he was tight when he was up there battling for lead, and once he got in dirty air, it was just bad on him. But he was definitely stout. He was racing like Ross, like the Ross Chastain we remember in that first stage against Larson. I mean, they were racing like it was the last 5 laps of the race.
Yeah, one of the guys out there. Yeah. Corey Heim. You got to point out Corey, P22. The dude would have had a top 15, maybe a top 10, gets spun coming to the line and finishes in 22nd. So mad about that because I love what Kevin Harvick said. He put it so poetically. He goes, for your first 2 Cup races in this car at the 2 tracks that you were at Dover and Kansas, for you to finish every single lap in both of those races, I think speaks volumes to who Corey Heim is. I mean, and it also gives you invaluable experience for that dude. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt he will be in a Cup car next year. It's just where.
I can tell you this, he's done better than his boss man. I'm telling you, we brought it up last week. I mean, you go back, obviously me and you wasn't watching NASCAR in 2000. But I have to think to the diehard Jimmy Johnson fans, they got to kind of feel like the DW fans did when he was having to use championship provisionals. And I mean, man, people want to blame Corey. Jimmy let off the gas and act like he hit the brakes 100 yards before he got to the corner with that wreck yesterday. I know he saw a little bit of smoke ahead, but he is the only one out of the cars that let off like that, it looks like. It's just,
I think both can be true. I think you can follow LaJoy and Jimmy. Because it's not, we can't give Corey LaJoy a pass because he's done some other stuff like this too. This isn't the first incident for him. That was LaJoy being LaJoy. But also, I agree, Jimmy did let up way early in the corner.
Way.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, he looked a little better on Saturday for qualifying than he has been at some of these other races, but he went from 19th to 32nd in 4 laps. It's just, I'm not trying to talk bad about, I don't put him, everybody wants to say that he's better than Jeff and Earnhardt and so on. I don't put him in that category. At the same time, he is a legend of the sport that I grew up watching. I don't like seeing him run 30th, 36th every week with a bunch of guys. I'm sorry, Jimmy, if you can't outrun Harrison, you don't need to be out there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's probably a pretty good litmus test there. If you cannot outrun the 21 car currently, you probably should not be in the field.
I just hate seeing the greats. Just
Jeff didn't do this. You know what? Let's call it what it is. Jeff didn't do this. I know Jeff came back and ran the 88 when Dale had his concussion issues, but he still ran fine. Like he didn't blow the smoke out of the water. He still ran fine.
But he could have won. He was the fastest car at Pocono and got into the top 5 before his seatbelt came undone. Finished in the top 15 at Indy. Led laps at Martinsville, finished 6th. Got a top 10. It's a whole different. Well, you see, even the end of, and this is why I say Jeff's better than Jimmy. Go look at the end of their full-time careers. Jimmy went 3 years, 2 years without making the playoffs. In 14, it was a racing incident in Texas that kept Jeff from being a championship forward. And then he made the championship forward this last season.
Yep.
A whole different level. Jimmy, I mean, this started, whatever has happened, started in 2017. He won at Dover. He won 3 of the first 11, 12 races, and then down he went, and it never came back. I don't know if it was the wreck that he had at Pocono that year, because if you remember right, that's the year that his brakes went out and turned one at Pocono, and he wrecked real hard, and he never was the same. But he must not be. I can't say he's scared because he's still doing it, and then he went and drove IndyCar afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's scared, but I do think you can lose your nerve the older you get. I just think, again, that doesn't mean that you're scared. I think, when you start approaching that age of 50, you're naturally just going to lose nerve. So, but yeah, other guys to look at, Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs got caught back in the pit cycle, and then he pitted to try, because he knew he wasn't going to make it. He pitted, went 2 laps down, and then that caution came out. That really cost Ty a top 20, probably. I mean, he had a top 10 car, but it cost him a top 20 finish when he pitted right there. And then, like you said, Joey, man, that was just disappointing. I mean, qualify 11th. Joey's always been wonderful at Kansas, and to run the way that he did was pathetic.
Well, did you see? I know you was busy Sunday. Did you see his interview that he did during the rain coverage?
I did not. I didn't turn it on until right when it started.
Man, they're pretty much just guessing, and he admitted like they're just gambling, trying to figure something out. Like they don't know what's going on. And Paul Wolf, I mean, Larry Reynolds was talking about it on the post-race show. No, on the pre-race show during the rain coverage yesterday. That he talked to Paul, and Paul's just scratching his head. He don't know what to do or what they're doing wrong.
Well, maybe let's go talk to your former teammate. Let's go to RFK and say, hey, we're Ford teammates. Tell me what we need to do, please. Because Ford is, since the stock market crash and all that in 08, 09, everybody in a Ford runs a Roush Yates engine. Okay? Everybody in a Ford acts like they're this one big family over here at Ford Performance. So maybe we need to have RFK go talk to Pittsky, and let's get everybody on the same page here, okay? Because the Blue Ovals are not running well, and maybe the Wood brothers, God bless their soul, they need to go. Okay, we need to get a new driver. Not only do we need to do that, we need to go and partner up with RFK like we were 10, 15 years ago. We need to get out of this Penske partnership, and we need to start putting our stuff over there with Brad and Chris. That's what we need to do, because it just ain't working out. I'm not saying if you gave Harrison, if they were partnered with RFK, he'd be running any better. Not saying that. Would never say that, because we all know that's a lie. But what I am saying is maybe the car would be a little bit better if the 21 car was coming out of the RFK camp instead of the Penske camp. But please, let's not get my blood pressure up, because I am just upset. I mean, Joey Logano is one of the greatest race car drivers in the history of the sport. You telling me he's got a car capable enough to qualify 11th and he finishes 30th something? And not because of a technical issue, not because he got involved in a wreck? What? No.
The only reason he was in a wreck is because he couldn't run above 20th in the car.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. This happened at Phoenix this year, too. I mean, and we go to some places, he gets up there and he's good enough to lead laps. And like you said, you see what we did yesterday. I mean, it's just depressing, straight up depressing. I'm talking about, again, and I'm not just saying this because he's my all-time favorite driver. I'm saying this because we all know he's one of the greatest to ever get in a NASCAR Cup car. He is, no matter if you like him or not. He is one of the greatest. He was put on the list last year. So there's no way that he's lost his nerve at 33, almost 34 years old. I know that much too. So they need to figure something out, and they need to do it fast.
No doubt. I know me and you aggravate each other, but obviously everybody that watches this sport as a fan knows how good he is. What's scary to me about Penske is that it seems like Blaney, who was carrying it, is losing the speed that he had.
Yep.
I mean, at least then you had hope, like, well, if the teammates got it, so maybe you can. But now, here lately, he got a decent finish, but it's just because Blaney's a good driver and got lucky and missed the wrecks and didn't wreck the car. It wasn't because the car was good. I mean, right now, Ford is RFK and Noah Gragson.
Yep.
And Michael McDowell sprinkled in there with him.
And, Ryan takes
Michael McDowell every week has more speed than the Penske cars for the most part.
Dude, what? I know. Like that's crazy to think about. That
But
front row
Ty
is
finished
outrunning
15th.
Penske. I don't stop. You're making me sad. Jeez. It's just, what are we doing? What are we? You telling me two-time championship winning crew chief, two-time championship winning driver. He's won how many? 33 career races. You're telling me he's running this bad? Really? At a place that he used to dominate at in the mid-20 teens? Telling me he's running this bad? He won a championship in this Gen 7 car. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to yell. I just, oh man, I was mad yesterday when Joey got in that wreck. I left the room. I'm not gonna say where I went, but I had to leave the room because I was so bad. I almost started crying. I really did. I was just like, he was almost able, because he's a good enough race car driver, to salvage a 25th place car. He'd gotten up there at the top 15 at that point. And then he just got in a racing. It was nobody's fault what happened. Just a racing deal, and he got wrecked. So it's just so sad right now. So I knew this day was going to come, though. I knew it was going to come. It always happens. You went through it with Jeff. People went through it with Dale Sr. It's going to come a day, but there also is going to come a day where he's going to be back in contention too. So I just need to be patient. I know it's going to be
I
okay.
also lived through the Ganassi years. I've had plenty of experiences with it.
Hey, you know what? I don't want to hear it. The best your favorite driver is the best driver in the world and drives the best equipment every Sunday now. So don't give me the whole Ganassi stuff, okay?
For a long time, he didn't.
he's got the best crew chief in the sport. He's got the best equipment in the sport, and he is the best driver in the world. There's again, but you are right. You are right. Those Ganassi days were rough. There was a lot of times where you knew that he was one of the best drivers, and he had nowhere near the best car.
Heck, somehow he won 8 races in that thing.
That is crazy to think about.
4 of them in 1 year.
He's best in the world. There's nobody can argue with that. But anyway,
I'm hoping we're going to get on one of them 21 rolls right now.
I don't like that you just said that. That just made me angry because I do not want to go to the 600 and see the 5-car dominate. Okay.
I haven't seen him win in person yet, so he probably won't.
Unfortunately, I hope that stays the same for you. I hope we can see a winless streak, or maybe.
Well, either way, it ain't gonna be a Ford. If it ain't him, it's just gonna be another car.
Let the 54 win his first crew race. Something. Let's have something positive happen for my fandom, because it's not been a positive year for me. Speaking of which, they keep getting more sad here for me. Not that yesterday with 0.001 thousandths of a second wasn't sad enough. Let's take a look at the point standings. Where
Logano no longer in the playoffs.
You didn't have to say that here. We were getting there. And tell me who our points leader is. Don't worry, it's Kyle Larson.
Oh yeah, we knew that.
Yeah, we knew that. MTJ still second. Chase is third. Glad I was right about something when I said him and Joey are about to get on a hot streak. Denny was fourth.
And Logano got on a streak after that. It was just the wrong way. It got worse.
Well, he did have back-to-back top 10s, and then he really regressed after that. Again, this is just the regular point standings, not the playoffs. Ty's in 8th. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, but still having a pretty good year. Chris Buescher up to 11th. He was 13th last week in overall points. Bubba now in 16th, and like you just mentioned, Joey in 17th. Noah Gragson continuing to total up some points. Now in the top 20 for the first time all year.
That penalty. Who would have thought? None of us, no NASCAR fan, nobody thought that. They saw that penalty for no, and they said, who cares? It ain't going to mean nothing. Boy, was we wrong. It could really mean something here in a couple months. I mean, who would have thought it actually would have mattered?
3 straight top 10s, man. I just think, again, and I know we talk about it every single week, but he is so good. And we said this when him and Ty were coming up. No, we said it last week. I just got to reiterate it, though. It's just like, look what his 3 other teammates are doing. Look what Penske's doing. Look what, even RFK, even though they've been running fairly consistent. But he's over there in just not good equipment, dude. And he just continues to be one of the guys up there every single week. He's going to get that win. I just don't know when it's going to happen. But him and Ty really going to win this year.
Even with the point penalty, he's less than 100 behind Lawless right now in the bubble.
Yep.
It's been super. the thing that makes it even more impressive is just because we thought Stuart Haas was just going to be laying on the side of the road, basically dying as a whole after August. And I think last year we put too much into what happened with Legacy. Me personally, I thought it was going to be Briscoe if they had any big opportunity to look consistently good. I was wrong. And this is somebody, back in the Xfinity days, you was on Team Ty's side, I was on Noah's side. Big Noah fan, but man, it's impressive what they're doing. I just hope that whatever is going on behind the scenes, that Stuart Haas doesn't wind up messing him up. I don't know what's going to happen. I think you keep seeing these reports. I think we're going to be in for one crazy, crazy, crazy silly season. There's no telling what's going to happen.
You remember my prediction I made after Daytona? I said Dale Jr. is going to buy some charters, and I'm still sticking by my guns on that. I think he's going to keep Josh and Noah around if he only gets two. If he gets that third one, I told you this last night. I think MTJ's coming over there to drive for him next year because MTJ's the only other contract for this year.
Well, I saw reports today that his official Stuart Haas has sent information to different teams about what it would take to get their charters. I read that, or I want to say it was Adam Stern, possibly, that shared it. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember which one of them, but it was one of the reliable ones. I was at work, so it was one of them things glanced down and went on about my day. And also, I did say, I don't know how much truth this is, that Bass Pro ain't going to come back with Truex possibly next year, whether he wanted to or not. So Truex may be done anyway. Or maybe Bass Pro go do something. Or maybe we don't know. Maybe Junior is speaking that Bass Pro wants to go with Junior. And that might be this.
Yeah. Bass Pro, the relationship they had with Senior, Junior, and Noah, that would signal if they're not going to come back with MTJ, they're going to go over there with Mr. Junebug. That's what that would signal for me.
I'll say this about Bass Pro, man. They'll spread it around. They don't care about manufacturer loyalty or anything. You need some money. You need some money. I mean, they'll sponsor anybody. Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota.
Yeah, they will. They will. It's getting like that with Mobile One, too. Mobile One sponsored Josh this year. They've sponsored all these Toyotas. I guess they just don't like the bow ties, apparently. Now it's time for our favorite moment of every week, every podcast episode. Where is Harrison Burton in points? And you'd like to know. You'd like to know. He has changed.
He beat two cars this week.
He did. And you'd also like to know that his point standing did change. Not for the better, but for the worse. He's currently in 33rd in points. And in case you're wondering at home, that is behind Justin Haley in the Rick Ware Racing number 51 car. It's only 7 points above Kaz Gralla. And, excuse me, not just 7 points above. That's Zane who's 7 points above Kaz Gralla. Harrison is 29 points above Kaz Gralla.
But Kaz hasn't ran every race.
That's right, because Riley Herbst has ran 2 races. So, and Cody Ware's ran a race as well. Look at that. No, Riley has ran 2 races, and Cody Ware's ran a race. So Kaz has missed 3 different races, actually.
And it's that close to Harry. And just look at these points, man. I know 22nd place in points ain't nothing to brag about. But when you're a rookie and your teammate's 30th, I'm talking about Hocevar over LaJoy. Hocevar is going to be one of them too. One of these days, one of these bigger teams is going to give him a ride, and he's going to win a lot of races.
Oh, yeah. You know, he reminds me of his career path. It's not the same career path, but it just reminds me of each other. Reminds me a lot of Bowman. You know, like Bowman came up, he drove a lot of very bad equipment early on in his Xfinity and his truck days, and then even on in his first Cup stint when he drove for BK Racing. And then, you know, he got the spot opportunities for Junior in the Xfinity Series, and then, you know, he injury replacement for Junior, won that race in the 88. That kind of has got him his full-time riding. Obviously been with Hendrick ever since. Kind of what it reminds me for Hocevar. Like, Hocevar's not obviously in the best equipment now. You just need an opportunity for him to get really, really good Cup equipment.
I have the perfect opportunity for Mr. Carson.
Uh-oh, tell me. I think I know what you're going to say. And if it is, I'm going to love it.
The guy that's 31st in points right now. Austin Dillon.
I don't love it as much as if you would have said the 21, but I do love that too for Carson to get in that 3 car. That'd be wonderful.
Well, heck, that wouldn't be bad either in the 21. But man, I just look. How long is Richard going to keep paying for him to
have a hobby?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is at this point. I mean, does he even have? He doesn't have. I know he's got what, 1 or 2 top 10s this year, 12 starts. So
I mean, I tell you, I think with the way we race, I think if we had 3 weeks in a simulator, we could contend with Austin every week.
I'm not going to go as far as to say that, but you're probably not too far off.
I think we could contend. I don't know. I think I could wreck less. I would just drive a little careful. And I'll finish.
Would you meet minimum speed?
Yes.
He says he would. I don't know. I'm not going to go.
No, I'm just. In all seriousness, you got to. If you're Richard, you got to make a decision because you're fixing to lose the future of your organization if you don't get him out of that doggone car. If you let Austin Hill and Jesse Love, especially Jesse Love, go to anybody else in the Cup Series, you are killing that team because Kyle Busch has been there. Kyle Busch, age-wise, is not old. He ain't 40 yet. Career-wise, he's up there. He ain't going to be here, I'd say, 5 more years at the most. Age-wise, he could go another 10, but more than likely he's going to – because he's probably going to be just like Kevin. Brex is starting to get old. He's going to be able to go with Brex and do all that stuff. And he's had an unbelievable career, one of the best all time in the history of the sport. You cannot risk losing both Hill and Jesse Love to keep Austin Dillon in a car and then lose Kyle Busch 3 or 4 years from now. You have a chance right now. You got 2 drivers in-house better than your grandson driving that race car.
Yes.
One of them, and Jesse might be the next superstar of the sport. Him along with my mind went blank. Won the truck race, ran the 43 car.
Corey
Heim, I'm sorry. Him, Corey Heim, Noah, Ty. That is the next, and you probably got another 10 years or so. Depends on how long Larson decides to run Cup before he wants to just go run dirt full time again. Because you never know how that's going to plan out. But those are the 4. Those are the ones that could be a serious thorn in Larson's side once Hamlin and some of these other guys are going.
That's right.
You got 2 of them in your own equipment. You've got to tell Austin.
Well, especially Jesse. He just turned 19 years old, and he's running up front in Xfinity. He's out driving guys that are in their 30s right now. Like, he is a guy, and Corey Heim's 21. Like, again, Austin's pushing 30, so his value and his stock not quite as high as some of those other guys you just mentioned, like your Noah, your Ty Gibbs, your Heim, and your Jesse.
But he's better than Austin.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you'd rather have him than a lot. You'd rather have Austin Hill in your car than a lot of guys in the Cup Series right now.
If you want to let Austin keep driving, let him drive the 2 Wheeling car next year in the Xfinity Series. If you just want to let him keep racing, you can't let both of them get by. Yeah. In my opinion, you can't afford to.
I think that, and here's what I'll say about this, and then we can move on to Darlington. I think that them having Austin Hill drive that 30, which he obviously drove yesterday, I think them having him drive that 33 car though is going to lead to something. I don't know what that is. Maybe a third charter, maybe Austin finally retiring, whatever that means. But I think that Austin's not just driving that 33 car just to drive it. I think that's going to end up leading to something for him in the Cup Series with them. So, and I think Jesse being 19, as good as he is, I still think he's going to need this year and probably next year before he makes that leap to the Cup Series full time. I think you do kind of Corey Heim deal with him to where he runs this year, and then ideally you'd like to see him in that 33 car next year running some Cup Series stuff for Jesse. So just to get him some seat time and then move full time in, what would that be, 26. So.
Yeah, they got to figure out a way to keep him, especially Jesse. I can tell you, it'll be the work Chevrolet / RCR. If you let him go to a Toyota team or Ford, you're gonna regret it for the next 15 to 20 years, and you're gonna regret it big.
Hey, tell Jesse Love. Tell Jesse
Do
Love
you
he can
think
come get the 21 next year.
he would improve about 10 spots right off the bat, I'm sure, even as a rookie. I mean, Ford's already – you see, Ford's regretting right now. I guarantee you somebody at Ford wishes they'd have signed Larson 4 years ago. Got to.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're Chevrolet, you don't want to be doing the same thing with Jesse. Better figure out something for him. I don't care who. Heck, you have to get rid of Bowman and Hendrick or something. You don't let him leave Chevrolet if you're Chevy side of it.
How about this? They let him leave. They let him get in the 21 car. They let him run 4 or 5 years in the 21 car, right? And then when Mr. Logano says, I'm done. Tired of racing. Gonna go be a dad to Hudson and the other babies. Maybe you let Jesse Love get in the 22 car, and the legacy just continues.
Just like with Blaney about the time. Just like with Blaney about the time he makes the Brothers relevant, move him over to Penske.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe Brad's like, no, I'm gonna buy a third charter. Jesse Love is gonna be over here with me.
I think at some point that's gonna happen. Brad wants to expand, and at some point it's gonna happen. But
well, Justin Haley is pretty much a Roush employee at this point. But yeah, we don't have to dive fully into silly season. That'll be here soon enough. We got to talk about the Lady in Black.
We're not. We're too addicted to this stuff. We get to talk too much. But the Lady in Black, I love this place. One of my favorite tracks on the circuit. Love going there in person when I've been. It's a place where if you're a Larson fan, you've seen him win once, should have won 2, 3. Ross Chastain. We got Chastain last year if we were Larson fans. But coming into this one, it's just so I love watching these guys. It's so narrow. It's one of them tracks that you just realize just how good these guys are.
Yep.
Because you shouldn't be able to do what they do with them cars on that narrow surface. The fact they can run single file without wrecking is impressive. The fact they can go side by side sometimes, it's just incredible to watch. And in person, you see them sliding off the corners. You've been there more than I have. You've seen it. It's just incredible to see it. And I think we're in for a great race. And I'm just going to go. Hendrick has won throwback week, by the way. Between Larson's car, bringing back one of Jeff's Exalta schemes from the late 2000s. I don't really know. Junior, the one on Chase is cool to see. I don't know if it's old enough to be a throwback. Really, that Exalta scheme for Jeff's about the same. But Bowman's, what is Bowman's?
He's running a Jimmy Lowe's throwback.
Yeah, from like the early 02, 03 range. But I love that Kelly's car, by the way. There's $80 to $100 set to the side for that one. She can't hear me. But anyway.
Diecast or you? Dude,
yeah.
I'd have the hat. I'd have the shirt. I'd text you.
I may show up bringing catalog stuff to the 600.
That is a bad looking race car, dude. That is. Man.
I love it. I've been waiting for them to do that since he got in that car. And last year I was so disappointed when they ran like that Xfinity paint scheme or something that Brian Vick ran.
Right. Okay, I mean, because it's already a throwback what Kyle runs every week to Ricky, which is awesome, right? That's awesome within itself. But let's honor a legend here. Let's honor, and I'm so glad they're honoring Terry, man.
Next year, I say bring the one out that he won his last race when the one that he ran like 02 and 03. It was more orange and blue.
With Tony the Tiger on it.
Yeah, it actually had Tony the Tiger on it. I like that one.
I love that thing. I would actually like it if they could get Kellogg's to sign on brand for that and actually have bring the Tony the Tiger car back. But yeah, obviously Darlington is, I mean, it's pretty much equal distance from my house to Charlotte. So Darlington and Charlotte, my two home tracks. Darlington is in the Palmetto State where I grew up in South Carolina. For those who don't know, I went to my first ever sporting event, not race. Obviously, it was my race. First ever sporting event when I was 2 years old at Darlington Raceway. And I vividly remember Greg Biffle coming by there and cut practice and had no headphones on yet. My dad had not put them in. And I remember smiling at my dad. And I had to walk up the stage. These are my first ever memories in life. I can remember. I was 2, about to turn 3. It was during the spring race back when they used to have 2 like they do now. And it was just some of my favorite childhood memories come to this place at Darlington. And I went to Throwback Weekend a couple times. It's awesome place to watch a race. Strongly encourage anybody who has not been there to go because um, it's so sick being right by Charlotte and Darlington because Darlington is like you're going back in time. I hadn't been to Wilkesboro yet, but I would have to imagine kind of like how Wilkesboro is. And Charlotte is like everything's up to date because it's the hub of NASCAR. So you're getting to see some of the best stuff, right up the road, but you're also getting to go back in time and teleport back to 80s and 90s when you go to Darlington every year. You started out last week with your picks, so I guess I'll start out first.
By the way,
This
I picked Young Money.
You did. Hey, I threw you an oop on that one, by the way, because I didn't pick him. I didn't pick him. I said, I literally, if you go back and listen to the podcast, I said, I'm going to throw you an alley oop here and not pick him.
Well, didn't you pick Busher?
No, I think I picked Noah.
You did pick Noah.
Yeah, I picked
which it
Noah
wasn't not being a terrible pick, but I mean, it was top 10 pick.
No, and I picked the 45 car, which that did not seem too good either. So I was trying to be different. I ain't with a bad pick. I had a top 10, and I picked Bowman, so I had two top 10s. So I wasn't too shabby. This week, we'll start out with Toyota. I'm gonna go Denny. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go out on the limb this week. I'm gonna pick the 11. He's been good. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. He's been in contention at every race we've had this year. He's currently on a career-long streak of leading at least one lap in 16 straight races. So Denny has been just on fire. I think that is the safest pick of the week. He also always runs well at Darlington. I actually seen him win. I think it was 2017 Southern 500. I actually had to leave early. We listened to it on the radio. Last 50 laps, he won that race. So, Chevrolet. The 5 car is my favorite paint scheme, but yet again, I'm going to pass that up to Mr. Beasley if he would like to pick his favorite driver. I'm going to go Ross Chastain. I think the 1 car has shown some really good speed over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, last year, if he wouldn't have been an idiot and took out him in the 5 car, he'd had a chance to win last year too. So I do like Ross. I think Ross has matured a lot since last year as well. Ross is going to be my Chevrolet pick. For Ford, man, they're guessing, so I guess I'm going to guess too. I'm going to pick the 22. Joey's always strong at Darlington. Hopefully they can return to form and what they did in the spring race in 22, and hopefully move a Hendrick car out of the way on the way to it. Obviously, the guy I'm picking to win the race is going to be Ross. I just think Ross has had some really consistent speed out of those 3. Joey's kind of an underdog pick, which who would have thought you'd said that earlier this year or ever once he's getting the 22 car. He's my underdog, but any Ford's an underdog right now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much just going with Joey. I think there's one more obvious pick out there for Ford. I hope you'll go with him. So, who are you going with this week at Throwback Weekend?
Toyota. I think the 2. It's really hard to choose between them, but I'm going to go with Truex. He's really strong, especially the spring race. I'm going to go with Truex. Always really good. Chevrolet. I don't want to just be the guy that picks your favorite driver every single week. He will be a threat. He pretty much is almost everywhere except for super speedway races, let's be honest. I'm going to go with Willie B. 2 years ago, he was in contention to win for him, and Joey got into it. And then last year, he took advantage of the Chastain mess and won. So he's been right there both years in contention, so I don't think that's a bad pick. Ford, I'm going to hop back on the Brad train. Ford. Right now, I think, honestly, when you're picking Fords, you got to flip a coin between the 2 RFK cars. If you're legit, like if you're a betting man, you have to pick one and 2 if you're going to put money on it. I mean, they're not too consistent. Yeah, or Noah. It's just experience-wise. Brad's going to eventually win one of these races in his own car. Got to. But the one that I'm picking to actually win the race, I guess I'll go with Truex.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think Noah would be a good pick for Ford this week as well. I was hoping you'd say Brad, because I do think he's going to have a legitimate shot. Just
Noah was really good in the series too.
Oh yeah, I mean he won that race where Sheldon Creed and Larson basically took each other out. Noah came up, won that race. So yeah, like I said, I don't think there's any of those guys who said Forward camp wise, like you said, though, I think you got to be between the 17, the 6, and the 10. For me, I'm picking the 22 because he has one here before in the spring. They're guessing right now, apparently, and I thought it was bad mojo if I picked him. Then I thought it was bad mojo if I didn't pick him. At this point, I don't think it really depends on what I say. So maybe I just try to show a little confidence in my guy. So I
At
don't
this
know.
point, they need to get a couple of top 10 type runs and get some momentum built. I mean, at this point.
Yep.
But I mean, and I'm trying to be biased, but I mean, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years of Darlington, you got the 5, the 19, the 11, the 24. Those have been the guys, and along with Ross. Well, Ross really was only one race, the last spring race. Now, he's ran good at Darlington, but that was really out of the last 4 that he was a threat.
Race winning speed, yep.
Yeah. All the other ones, Larson, Hamlin is unbelievable at Darlington. Truex is unbelievable. Larson's been really good, but Truex and Hamlin both have been better at finishing these races. Now, last year wasn't Larson's fault, but the ones before he's made mistakes and cost himself races at Darlington. Yep. But I think it's going to be really hard for the streak to end, I think, between the whole Gibbs and Hendrick winning every race besides the drafting races. It's going to be tough to beat it, but I think you probably got one of the better ones picked in Chastain.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Well, now it's time to move on to – yeah,
since you picked
absolutely. Him. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's time to move on to another happy note for the podcast. So, obviously, Checkered Past Present. We're the official broadcast partner of Green Flag Racing. Unfortunately, I have not gotten to broadcast a race in the last 3 weeks due to work. So I had to go back, just like you guys, and ride on board with JB this week. And, well, I got to ride on board with a winner when I went back and was able to watch it. So they were at Auto Club. You beat Loderman in a very close finish. Not as quite as close as what we had last night in real life, but really, really close finish.
I'm glad it wasn't close.
That move you made, what was it, coming to the white, was what won you a race. I mean, that was just amazing stuff.
I think I led 2 laps. I led one like in the first 20, and then I led a lap. I was pushing Billy. We had gotten separated from the rest of them, and I pushed him for like 25 straight laps to try and keep up with the group. And then we pitted, and one of them made a mistake and got caught speeding. That was CFAM. Took himself out. And then Dart Knight decided to take no tires. So obviously Loderman just ate him up and left him behind. And then me and Billy just pushed our way up there, and we caught him coming to the white flag. And I was going to push Billy around, and I was like, my one chance to win this race is probably to shoot to the bottom right here and make it 3 wide. And I did, and got the run, got the lead and held on. And it put me in a real good spot points-wise. In the original season, there's a really, really good chance that I'm going to be able to make the Final Four. I mean, I have 3,098 points, and Jay White is 5th with 3,068. Jay White's really the only one I'm getting. Happy, surprisingly, just update you on the points because we was talking about this if you haven't seen them yet. Fortunately, Happy blew him another motor Saturday night. But he is sitting 4th with 3,079 points above Jay White with 3,068. So it's going to come down between Happy and Jay White, it appears, for the final spot in the playoffs. And it's been a great season for the original season of GFR. I'm happy to be involved in it. I'm happy the page is involved in it. And we're going to be sponsoring. Well, we're already sponsoring, but next we're going to be sponsoring the trophies that we're going to have in season 2. We're going to have 2 different series I'm looking forward to. We're going to run Xfinity on Saturday nights. And we're moving Cup to Wednesday nights to hopefully make it where Brett's schedule fit better to where we can have some more broadcasts.
Dude, I tell you what, man, I had done about 2 hours of prep, and I was really looking forward to Saturday night and could not make it. And obviously, I really was upset when I got a text at about 9:30 because I wasn't even able to watch the stream. I got a text at about 9:30 that, hey, I won. And he sent me a picture of the screen, but I was so mad. But knock on wood, I didn't do it last week. Maybe that's why what happened. But knock on wood, I should be there this Saturday night. I for sure will not be there.
And I will finish 15th. 3 laps down.
I won't be there next Saturday for sure for the championship race, which I'm even more bummed out about. Not because of work, but because I'm flying back home. That'll be when I'm at home for the 600. It's the day before the All-Star race, but I fly home on the 18th, the day of the championship race. So maybe we need to ask Happy if we can move it to Friday night. Maybe, just maybe. We'll see what we can do. But even then, I don't even know because I might have to get up at 2:00 in the morning to fly out. So even then, I don't even know. I can't sleep on the plane. We'll see. But either way, knock on wood. Again, knock on wood. I really hope so because we do have some stuff to come up this weekend, but I hope it won't. I really hope we can be at Phoenix I can be at Phoenix this weekend for Green Flag Racing League. Like I said, man, Happy. We need to clip this next part instead of the Happy. I am so glad what he is doing with this league. He is committed and he is really locked into making this best league on NASCAR Heat 5 because it's just he wants to get guys who are fast. He wants to get guys who are entertaining. He wants good racing, and I think that he's got the right guys involved that driver wise. And I'm so happy what he's done, and again, really happy to be a part of it. And hopefully we start season 2. I can be there every single week. So, but man, this is really fun stuff, especially if you need your racing fix. And you on Saturday night after the Xfinity race. So.
It's really fun, and we're going to be the only league that I know of offering 6 trophies just for races. Right. Every league that offers a trophy is just the championship trophy. We're going to offer it for the Daytona 500. We're going to offer one for the Coke 600. We're going to offer one for Talladega. I had to include that just because that's my own track. We got one for the regular season championship and the All-Star race, and then also the championship, obviously. So it's going to be really fun. Now the Xfinity Series isn't going to be that way. It's just going to be just the championship trophy. But I mean, this league has a bunch to offer. There's a bunch of good racers in it, and I'm glad that I met Happy in the league and went over to GFR with him, and happy to be a part of it. And I'm happy that we got the checkered past and present with it too.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else that you want to touch on before we shut it down?
I'm happy we're at the Lady in Black, and then the marvelous month of May goes to the All-Star race, and then the 600. Man, it will be what? What is that? 3 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from 600. This
Sunday is 2 weeks. And time's flying. Yep. I hope this past weekend was a start to a very historical month for the 5 team.
For the race. No. Stop. No. Don't wish that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that on me.
I am going to be, if he can finish in, let's just say he has a couple more top 5s. Let's say he finishes in the top 5 at Indy and then can win the 600. I mean, who can doubt? Anyway, guys, remember to support your local short tracks if you have one. One real quick thing, since we did get this done earlier in the week, possibly a history episode this week may come in. But anyway, y'all have a great week and enjoy your race weekend coming up. We'll catch y'all next time.